This programme has been recorded and is not live. You're no longer able to interact with the show, so please do not call or text, as you may still be charged. Hope you enjoy the show. 15 years to the day Northern Ireland voted on the Good Friday Agreement.
Yes, 71.12%.
We have a specially commissioned opinion poll indicating what people here really think of the deal. Gay marriage has been backed by MPs in England and Wales, but will it ever happen here? And should it? Living with Down syndrome, we meet an inspirational young lady. Meltdown in Malmo. Ryan Dolan will be in this studio to tell us what went wrong, and we might even let him sing. Hello there, welcome along. Lots to talk about tonight. No doubt that plenty of you in the audience will be keen to join the debate with us. If you are at home and you want to get involved, let's just have a look right at the very top of the show how you can do so. You can call us 08459 555 678. Now the calls will cost up to 5p a minute for most landlines. An additional connection fee may also apply. Calls from mobiles may cost considerably more. You can tweet us at Stephen Nolan. Our hashtag is BBC Nolan, or indeed you can text us 81771 and the text will be charged at your standard message rate. So that's the housekeeping done. Let's get into the programme. 15 years ago, Northern Ireland went to the polls to vote on the Good Friday Agreement. It was an agreement which would ultimately, of course, pave the way for all of our political parties, unionists and nationalists and others, to share power at Stormont. And don't forget the controversy that flowed from it. Decommissioning, the RUC becoming the PSNI, the early release of paramilitary prisoners. And at the time, 71.2% of people in Northern Ireland voted in favour. But how do people feel about it now, 15 years on? Well, tonight we'll be revealing the results of a poll that the Nolan Show has had specially commissioned. Joining me to discuss the findings, Gregory Campbell from the DUP. From our Foyle studio, Sinn Féin's Mitchell McLaughlin. And BBC Northern Ireland political editor is Mark Devonport. Just before we start tonight, obviously we've had very significant news this evening from London. A man believed to be a soldier has been killed in a machete attack. 2 suspects are under arrest. The Prime Minister, David Cameron, has said there are strong indications that this is a terrorist incident and said the UK would never buckle in the face of such attacks. Mitch McLaughlin, let's get your reaction first to that breaking news this evening.
Yes, Stephen, I wasn't back from Belfast until 7 o'clock this evening, so I missed the early evening news. I did manage to catch that newscast in the studio here just before this programme. I am not clear as to the nationality of the 2 individuals, but clearly it was a random attack. They didn't know their victim. They may have seen him coming out of a nearby military barracks, and to that extent I just wonder what in fact is the message that these 2 individuals were trying to deliver. I don't think that there can be under any stretch of imagination that this will make any substantial difference to British policy, whatever it was that they were protesting about or that they attacked this poor unfortunate man. I think we have to extend our sympathies to his family. Well,
obviously, Gregory, there are some who feel that that type of sickening attack works on some occasions. What's your reaction?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is sympathies to the family of the soldier. It seems to have been a horrific attack, and I saw just before coming in tonight the front pages of tomorrow's national papers seem to indicate, the racial nature of the attack. And some of the slogans shouted as they unfortunately killed and murdered the soldier. I think the Prime Minister is going to have to get to grip tomorrow morning very, very quickly and take control of the situation.
Yeah, but do what? Yeah, what can you do in a situation like that?
Well, he needs to be seen to be in control. The one thing that we do not need is racially motivated violence in the United Kingdom.
It's
anywhere.
not racially motivated, is it?
We don't know.
We don't know at this stage what it is. They believe that it may be a terrorist attack.
Yes, they do. And we have to see the people who are in custody, who were shot by the soldiers, where they're from, what their background is, what the reasoning for the attack was. But the Prime Minister does need to assume control tomorrow morning.
Obviously, reports are coming out, literally over the last few hours. There are reports that, for example, he is that it was heard that one of the perpetrators shouted "Allah Akbar," "God is great," whatever is associated with that. Obviously, there will be people of that faith that will be just as horrified as anything else, and we take that as read. Let's just get our initial reaction in the studio tonight before we talk about our situation here in Northern Ireland and what the Good Friday Agreement has actually brought us. What do we think here? Let's just go to the guy here. You were talking to me just before we came on air. Hiya.
No, it's just sickening to think that we live now in a society, these type of people that are born on hatred, die on hatred, and believe in a world that doesn't even exist. It's sad to say that we don't even know these type of people that are in our country now. It's a disgrace. It should never have been let in the first place.
Yeah. And there's a man just behind you there in the check shirt. Hello.
Stephen, isn't it amazing how the killing of a soldier now in England is getting such a reaction here? When you think how many were killed over 40 years of troubles, is sort of being forgot about now because of Good Friday agreements and politicians getting their big money at Stormont. The past, I think, of people, innocent people who were killed doing their job, going to work, is just forgot about now. And there are guys like Mitchell and Gregory Campbell sitting there with their big money up in the big house who don't care. They don't care. The place has gone to pot. And this is getting such a big reaction happened in England.
So 15
what about
years,
40 years ago?
So 15 years on, and that's what we're talking about at the top of the show tonight,
it's done
right?
nothing for me.
15 years on, do you not think that the Good Friday Agreement has delivered for you?
Not at all, Stephen, no.
Why not?
Because you look back 15 years ago, Greggy was the very man who was kicking David Trimble in the teeth because he was going for it. Now the worm has turned. What's happened? Gregory, can you answer that? Why is your party, all of a sudden, after 15 years, want to go in and sleep in bed with Sinn Féin, and you didn't want to do it 15 years ago? You tell me. You tell me. You answer that question.
Well, let him reply to you.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward, the difference. 15 years ago, the IRA were still active. They were still armed. They were still carrying out atrocities. Murders were still occurring. And what had to happen after the Belfast Agreement, Sinn Féin and the Republican movement had to face up to their responsibilities. The fact that they carried out the atrocities and they needed to stop. And they needed to support policemen rather than shooting them. And it took a long time, it took a number of years, but eventually, reluctantly, they came to that point.
So you're telling
That's
us,
the difference.
So you're telling us back in '98 you weren't opposed to power sharing with Sinn Féin? In principle?
We weren't opposed to power sharing with Democrats, and we're still not. The difference is, it wasn't Democrats that we had to sit down with in 1998. It was people who were still engaged in violence and terror, and they had to stop that and turn away from that and support the courts, the police, and the rule of law.
So you're saying that the deal that you're currently working on under now has nothing to do with the '98 deal?
In the sense that at the moment it's all Democrats. There's nobody in Stormont who advocates violence. In 1998 there were.
So Mitchell, when did you become a Democrat?
I was born a Democrat. It took a civil rights struggle in 1968 for me to get a vote. So the idea of democratic principles seemed to be a strange concept to unionists who at that stage had a one-party government. So, there is in fact a context in all of this. But what we have brought to the process is a commitment to ensure that there will be a peaceful resolution of all of the outstanding issues. And we've demonstrated that in every year, in every week and in every day since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. It is an inclusive agreement based on democratic principles of equality and inclusivity, and Sinn Féin would stand by and defend those
So
principles.
you reckon you're working the same deal that you were working under in '98, do you? You're working it through? Is that it?
Yes, nobody can seriously argue that it's different.
Well,
it will be developed.
Gregory's arguing it.
Well, I mean, Gregor's entitled to his opinion, but I think I'll leave it to common sense, and people can take a look at what we have and tell me what's different about it.
Well, in the year 2000, I was a minister, and I could do as I pleased. Governmental silos, people not accountable to their executive colleagues. We didn't even go to the executive because in the executive were people who weren't committed to peaceful means. That was the position then. It's not the position now. You have to be accountable. You have to get agreement. You've got to get cross-party consensus at the executive table.
Why did you call yourself a minister back then?
Because I was a minister. And I could do it under the terms of the 98 agreement. That's why we had to get some changes in 2007. So that people are accountable now, and they weren't 15 years ago.
It's. I just want to take a look at some of the headlines out of our poll that we have specially commissioned for the Nolan Show. 15 years on, we asked how you would vote now on the Good Friday Agreement. Let's have a look at this together. 50% said they would vote yes, 11% said no, 21% wouldn't vote, 18% said they didn't know. Now, if we actually do a little bit of number crunching around that, by our reckoning, if you exclude those who wouldn't vote, what's this survey actually saying? Let's take a look. It would point to a 63% vote in favour of the Good Friday Agreement if they're voting now, 15% against, 22% saying they don't know. That's a floating vote, people making up their minds on polling day. And Mark, once I start getting into those type of figures, I get lost straight away.
Yeah.
Sum that up for me.
Well, first of all, people will have seen at the start of your show the returning officer announcing the result, 71%, and they may then say, oh, 50%, there's been a huge slide in support for the Good Friday Agreement. We should make the point that when the returning officer gave that figure, it was on those people who had voted, and we have large numbers here in an opinion poll, because it is an opinion poll, who either are saying they're not going to vote, 1 in 5 are saying they're not going to vote, or more or less the same proportion saying, look, we don't know. So this is the reason why we have lower percentages, both of the yeses and of the nos. When you strip out some of those figures, though, you still have a healthy majority in favour of the Good Friday Agreement, and obviously it's a hard one for people to actually, address, because 15 years, a lot has happened. There's been a lot of water that has flown under the bridge since then. But you still have a healthy majority. Even if all the don't knows were to pile into the no camp, which wouldn't happen, the agreement would still have gone through. So you're looking at the same kind of majority, or maybe even an enhanced majority.
Gregory, how would you vote if you were voting today?
If I was voting and the basis of the vote was on letting murderers out early of prison, I would vote no.
So you would still vote no today, would you?
Yeah, and I think my view is that most of those who voted no, who were unionists voting no, did so on the basis that letting prisoners out is a price I'm not prepared to pay.
Are you not the same man that did a deal that meant the prisoners didn't go back in?
No, we didn't. There was no question of the prisoners going back in. How on earth would you put the prisoners back in after the government, the sovereign government in London, had said, we've signed a deal to let them out?
But you were prepared to do a deal with Sinn Féin anyway.
On the basis that Sinn Féin signed up to supporting the courts, the police and the rule of law, which they didn't do in 98. Remember, we had a whole series. We had spy rings, we had the institutions collapsing 3 times, all of that, the instability that between 98 and 2007. Since 2007, there's been an improvement, not as much as there needs to be. There needs to be a lot more.
Let's see what we think in the audience tonight. Hello.
It's the politicians not having proper engagement because of their grassroots. Also, when they play to their side, they terrify and scare the other side. What I think they're trying to actually do is keep us apart. And I believe that there's so many building blocks that they could do, but they always seem to put the fear on us, and then we step backwards. I believe we should have a forum of ordinary people. All these politicians have hidden agendas. We don't have any hidden agendas. We just want people to be living in safety.
Look, I know I give politicians a hard time, right? But when you talk like that, these politicians have hidden agendas. They live and they work in your community. They're part of our community. Are we going to keep on demonising these people who ultimately you elect? The people watching this programme elect them. You can give them a hard time, but don't demonise them.
That's the trouble though, Stephen.
Hold on, do we get a microphone to you? Go ahead.
That's the trouble. We vote them in for part of the community, to represent us. But at the end of the day, once they're in, nothing.
So are you not happy with now?
Not.
Why not?
No, because I've gone to representatives and I've gone to my community representatives to do certain things for me. And they look at, yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll do that, and they do the talk and not the walk. So I totally don't believe that what the politicians say we're going to do is a total...
Things are far better in Northern Ireland now than 15 years ago. Do you not agree with that?
But I still feel that we're still going steps back. We've still got a long way to go.
The man up here was talking about the different communities. Have a look at this stat in this poll that we commissioned. We asked people if they were to vote now, what about the breakdown between the two communities? 37% of Protestants said they would vote yes to the agreement. Look at the difference, 66% of Catholics. Now, Gregory Campbell, why on earth are Catholics more confident, feeling a better place in Northern Ireland about the Good Friday Agreement than Protestants? Why? Are you letting them down?
Well, I think what that is indicative of, and remember, I had a look just on the way in, Stephen, to your at your poll and the stats, and it appears to, according to the BBC, it appears to have surveyed 1,000 people aged 16 and up.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And you were asking them about issues relating to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now work out the maths there. So somebody who was 16 was being asked, what did you think of life when you were 1?
They were asked if they were to vote tomorrow.
Yeah, but they were asked a number of things.
That's what they were asked.
They were asked a number of things
Yeah.
about comparisons with 15 years ago and today.
Yeah.
Now, is anybody seriously saying anybody under 20 or 21 would have a view about 15 years ago and relating it to today?
So you don't think they do history in school? You don't
Well,
think a 16-year-old is actually capable of getting some knowledge and thinking to themselves?
But you weren't asking them about history.
They're incapable
Stephen.
of thought.
You weren't asking them about history. You were asking them about how do you think things have improved or changed from 15 years ago compared to today? And some of those people weren't even even in school.
So your theory tonight's going to be to rubbish the whole poll, is it?
No, well, I always treat opinion polls with a note of caution. There is one poll that counts, and it's the one that's in the black box.
Well, look, it's fair enough for Gregory to point out that this is a difficult thing for people to get their heads around. Not all 1,008 people who were interviewed were 16, one has to point out. It's across the whole age spectrum. But obviously, to put yourself in the shoes of somebody 15 years ago when so much has happened, whether it be paramilitary disarmament, whether it be deadlock at Stormont, whether it be prisoner releases and so on, actually, looking at that statistic, I think it chimes in not only with some of the recent things we've been hearing about sort of alienation within the unionist community, but also broadly what was, I think, a concern about the direction that the peace process might be heading on within the unionist community all along the way. You have to remember that whilst there was no definitive breakdown of the votes that were put in the box back in 1998, all the sense was that the unionist vote was really pretty evenly balanced and that the Catholic vote was much more pro the agreement. So when you look here at the statistics, 66% of Catholics voting yes, whereas only 37% of Protestants say they would, it doesn't really surprise me because there has always been more enthusiasm on the nationalist side for this process than on the unionist side.
Mitch McLaughlin, do you think Catholics are happier here in this new Northern Ireland, if you want to keep it, hold it like that, than Protestants? And if that is the case, are you happy with that?
Well, I do think that we should acknowledge that the electorate are intelligent. That when they would get a question in an opinion poll, what way would you vote tomorrow? You can take it that if they're given enough time to consider what is the alternative if the assembly is taken away, would we go back to direct rule? Would we go back to chaos?
Yeah, but the question is, why would Catholics be a lot more happy than Protestants?
Well, I am coming to it. In my view, throughout the process, from the earliest, there was, I think, much more expectation and confidence reflected within the broad nationalist community than there was within the unionist community.
Why?
Because we had a very lopsided, one-sided system that was called democratic, but which quite manifestly wasn't. And it was replaced by a system that was even worse, which was direct rule. Now we have power sharing, and I think nationalists have the ability to achieve their constitutional aspirations.
Well, look, that is an opinion poll. It is no more than that. It is no less than that. But for example, some people might draw out of that you lot are pushing people from the Protestant community too far, and that you should beware of them being unhappy. You should care about them being unhappy.
Well, I do think that that there's a point in that needs to be examined. And let's just step back slightly further to the earliest days of the O'Neill administration. Very minor very modest reforms. And within his own party and within his own constituency, O'Neill's government was destroyed. And then you jump forward to David Trimble, who I think people should recognise. He knew his party was going to reverse him. He knew he was going to be attacked. When he signed up for the Good Friday Agreement and he brought people together, it was reversed very quickly. But that was incredible bravery, and it is my view that he did deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because he knew what was going to happen. And it wasn't going to be Republicans that was going to pull him down.
Didn't it take you lot to dump him and do a deal with Paisley instead, though, did it?
Well, he was gone. He was destroyed by his party at that stage. And yes, we were looking for a sustainable agreement, and we have that now.
Ian McLaughlin, where are you in? What's your feel from the Protestant community? You see that stat. You're a community worker. What's your feel?
Well, I actually believe that many people who voted, primarily from the Protestant community, who voted for the Good Friday Agreement 15 years ago, had a vision of a new Northern Ireland that most certainly hasn't been met. And in the 15 years since the signing of that agreement, I also believe that many events have taken place, most recently in Belfast with the removal of the Union flag, which have certainly had an impact on how people would view if they would vote for the sustaining of that agreement.
There's a guy here in the front. Hello.
Could the current political system be seen as lazy due to no official opposition in government, and does it need to be reformed?
Do you want an opposition?
Yeah, I think it would be better for the
Why?
government, because that means
Don't they argue between themselves enough?
No, because then if they have an opposition there, then that means they have somebody to fight with instead of fighting among each other and sitting all together as a coalition.
But what's the alternative you want? What would you want an opposition to stand for?
Well, like, they're going to be, obviously there's going to be two different oppositions, like, so like you could have Sinn Féin, the DUP as one, and then like the other three parties together, and then that means that you can vote for who you feel would do better for the Northern Ireland itself.
Okay, there's a lady up here. Hello, go ahead.
The Good Friday Agreement was set up to create equality and fair policing in our society, but his recent issues such as the flag protests and how this was handled by the police, for example, letting them protest during the most important months of the year and all these businesses losing out money, has this got people questioning the Good Friday Agreement?
Gregory?
I couldn't quite hear the question.
The Good Friday Agreement was set up to create equality and fair policing in our society. Now, as recent issues such as the flag protests and how it was handled by the police got people questioning the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that, and I know I've heard many scores of unionists saying that they've been disillusioned in recent weeks and months, and that's why. And I think, flawed as the poll is, I think some of the figures are borne out in what you see and hear on the streets. People want to see more action, more quickly, and more delivery, and that's the challenge for every political party in Northern Ireland.
Jude Collins, what do you take out of that poll?
Well, I think the reason for the gap is that some unionists, not all, but some have got a very short memory. The fact is, Republicans and Nationalists at the beginning made the big concession, which was that the constitutional position would be decided not by, as it always held, 32 County Ireland, but by the 6 County Northern Ireland. Now, that was a huge concession for them to make. The unionists are now finding that they have to adjust to their side of the bargain, which is to create a state where people are equal, where people get jobs on the basis of their ability, where they get housing in terms of their needs. And that's something that is gradually being worked out over the years. And some people are finding that hard to take. They have a notion of a zero sum.
You think ordinary, good, decent people from the Protestant community would find that hard to take, do you?
No, I say some unionists clearly find difficulty with that, because they feel that if nationalists or Republicans are making gains or getting equality, in fact, that therefore means
do you
something
mean people like Gregory? Do you mean people like Gregory?
No, I certainly don't. I don't think Gregory's. I hope he doesn't think that way.
Do you?
No, I don't. But I'm amazed that Jude's presenting it in the way that he is, because you see, in the unionist section of the community now, they see that the tables have turned. They're saying, and many of them say to me on a weekly basis, yeah, this equality is a good idea. And you know what? We would like some. We would really like some. When you look at the public sector in terms of recruitment, there is a vast imbalance in terms of who's been recruited. And it's not the Catholic community who are suffering there. It's the Protestant community. So equality is a very good concept. And please, let's have more of it.
Let's have a look at another finding of our poll. We also asked the two communities if they thought Stormont was working well. Let's have a look. 60% of Catholics said Stormont working well. 35% of Protestants said Stormont is working well.
Once again, Stephen, we see sort of a more enthusiastic approach to the process and to the Stormont system amongst the Catholic community than amongst the Protestant community there.
Which has got to be worrying to the unionist parties, right? It's got to be. The DUP.
It is a concern. One thing they may take a little bit of solace from is that more people seem to think Stormont was working well than working badly, which actually doesn't necessarily chime with what you hear a lot of the time, only narrowly. But you know, it's clear that there's still a lot of disenchantment there, about 44% who think that Stormont's not working very well or not at all well. And, you know, maybe, again, we've heard from some people about the need for an opposition. There's all that sort of talk about deadlock, about people locking horns, not making progress. And certainly on the unionist side, it seems to be more strongly felt.
David McCann, where are you, David? Hello, David. What do you think about that last stat?
Well, it's not really surprising in terms of the gaps between the communities. It's worth pointing out.
It's not surprising.
It's not really surprising.
Why don't you think that's surprising?
Well, the reason
that
is
a lot more Catholics would be a lot happier.
Well, the reason is because, Stephen, if you take a look at stats and you look at, there's 160,000 less people voting in Northern Ireland since 1998. So part of the problem is that what you're getting is, I mean, Gregory was talking about silo government. That drop in turnout is creating that very that silo system. And what you're getting is, and you've seen it in your audience tonight, people feel so disengaged with the process. And part of the problem is that, as from what I can see, is that people think that Stormont just isn't addressing their concerns. For example, 80% support integrated education, yet 7% of kids go to integrated schools. We're now more divided than we were in 1998. There are 90 peace walls across Northern Ireland today. That's more than there were then. So that's where I think a lot of the alienation is coming from.
Jim Wilson?
Well, Stephen, I'd like to start off on the positive. The Good Friday Agreement, whether you like it or hate it, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people still alive in this country because it was signed, because it took away the violence, most of the violence off the streets. So that's the positive on it. But from the community I come from, there's been a terrible lot of negatives. We haven't dealt with the past. You
were in favour of the Good Friday Agreement at the time. Would you vote for it tomorrow? Would you vote yes?
On the basis, Stephen, that it's delivered a lot of saved lives in this country. It's as simple as that. It has saved lives in this country. On that basis, yes, because I wanted a better future for my children and for all the children in this country. You know, I'm a grandfather and I want my grandkids to be able to go about this country and live in peace and do things that they can't do.
And yet you see from that stat, more Protestants having a disillusionment, if you like, with Stormont than Catholics. Why would that be?
Stephen, it's just, well, let me put it a simplified way for you, if I can. The Good Friday Agreement, as we were sold it, was a football pitch. On that football pitch, you had the Nationalist, Republican community, the Loyalist and Unionist community. We then, the referees, had the British government, and the linesman on both sides would have been the Irish government and the American government. And what did they do? They sided completely with Republicans and helped to keep them on board the whole time. Loyalism was left totally behind and totally practically out of that process. That's factual. Read, you know, there was a person the other week came on.
You say factual. No. It's a matter of opinion, isn't it?
The political people that were blamed were our unionist parties on them days, but it wasn't. It was the Labour government left us behind and continue, because it was more important to keep Sinn Féin on board because they had the capacity to bomb nothing.
Let me bring in Julie. Hello, Julie.
Hi.
Thanks for calling us tonight. If you want to call us, if you're watching from home, the number will come up on your screen. Go ahead, Julie.
Stephen, what I'm saying is, 15 years on, are we in a better place? Yes, we are. My father was a taxi driver, a Catholic taxi driver. My brothers, there was Protestant taxi drivers. You look back at 15, 18 years back, women went to bed worrying with their husbands coming home. So are we in a better place? Yes, we are. Definitely. So we need to move on. We need to, the past. We move on now. And all this, whatever's going on now, and this isn't rolling this, we have to stop this and move on. We are in a better place. We can go to bed at night and close our eyes.
Okay. Julie, thank you very much for calling us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our guests a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, here's what's still to come on the programme. The House of Commons has voted to allow gay marriage in England and Wales, but where does that leave Northern Ireland? Right, you can pick up the phone you know how to do so. 08459 555 678. You'll see the numbers coming up on the screen. The text is 81771. Young Vincent's got my mobile phone. If you're tweeting us tonight, you can actually tweet us during the show. He'll be answering some of your tweets from up there. And then at 11:30 tonight, what happens is I get the phone and we continue the discussion on Twitter. That's at Stephen Nolan. At Stephen Nolan on Twitter. And there are so many, of course, of your messages that come into us. Sometimes it's into 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the beauty of this TV programme, of course, is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on BBC Radio Ulster is when we continue the discussion on the radio. Now, Saturday night wasn't a good night for Strabane man Ryan Dolan. In front of an audience of around 125 million, he came last in the Eurovision Song Contest. So, why do we have him in here singing tonight? Was it really that bad? Why don't we all make our own mind up? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Dolan.
All our lives we've been afraid, watching the world decline till nothing remains. But in our darkest hour, right before the dawn, the old world dies and a new day is born. We're gonna live like it's the last night alive, and we're dancing to the morning light. And even if the sun's rise, in the end only love survives. So be love, just be love, only love. We are love, only love. And when the stars are aligned, you got to make love your state of mind. 'Cause in the end only love survives. So let the world collide. Don't be afraid. If it's the end of time, love will remain. So live like it's a last night alive, and we're dancing to the morning light. And even if the sun's low rise, in the end only love survives. So be love, just be love, only love. We are love, only love. And when the stars are aligned, you got to make love your state of mind. 'Cause in the end only love survives. So be love, only love, love, love. Only love, love, love. Only love survives.
Thank you.
I'm just dying to ask you this question, right? What is it like? Eurovision's a pilot. But what's it like to come last?
To be honest,
Shut up, you lot.
To be honest, on the night I was really disappointed. But the next day when I found that the song was charting in 18 countries across Europe,
what about that? That deserves a round of applause, doesn't it? Wow.
Yes,
So from was there a big low when you hit last, or did you not really care?
I suppose I honestly did at the time. Just seeing the votes coming out, it was really disheartening. But the next day I got up and actually that night I went out and had a good time with all the team, like, and we got over it quickly, like, so just really happy that things are going so well.
And then you have that euphoria of charting in so many
Yeah,
countries.
yeah, that's it, yeah. And we released the album on Monday past there, Frequency, and it's doing really well in the charts. It's in the top 20 album charts in Ireland, and it's climbing into the charts all over Europe. Even in Australia. So, no, I couldn't be happier at the minute.
Well, we wish you all the best, and thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
for-
on the
thanks
show.
for having me.
Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Now, I wonder how many of us, if we were being really honest, would prejudge someone who has Down syndrome. Well, why don't we actually just find out what it's really like to live with this disability? And I can tell you right now, this lady is a charming young lady, and she doesn't let much get in her way. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, let's give Barbara a big welcome. Barbara Norris, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Barbara. Good to see you. Have a seat. And this, of course, is Sister Emma. Hello, Sister Emma.
Nice to meet you.
Good. It's nice to meet you too. Barbara, I guess what I really want to try to understand tonight, right, is what is it like living with Down syndrome?
Well, living with Down syndrome is amazing in a way.
Why amazing?
Because I grew up with it, and I've just experienced a whole lot of new things, and I enjoy it. It's a good thing to have.
Do you mean that?
Yeah.
Why is it a good thing to have?
Because there are different ways of, there are like different parts of Down syndrome, and having that is like a learning disability, and that also helps because it's got a good positive vibe to it.
You see, I know that you're a confident young lady, right? I know that you're kind of driven, and that's fantastic. And so that's therefore why I know that I can probably ask you some of the questions that I might maybe otherwise be frightened to. Right?
Okay.
So when you're growing up, do you get many people judging you?
Sometimes when I was young, but now I've grown out of it. It's really brought back some things, but that was good.
What type of things happened to you when you were young? Things like what?
Things like when people are talking to either my sister or my parents without talking to me. So if I'm with my parents and they talk to my parents instead of talking to me.
Because they think you can't answer for yourself?
Yeah, they think because they can't answer for me.
What are you actually saying to yourself in your head?
In my head, it's like answers as to why they think they should talk to my parents when they should be really talking to me.
And what would you say to them?
Go, why are you talking to them for? They should be talking to me instead of them.
Why are you taking big sighs? Are you nervous?
No.
Are you? Don't be nervous out here because you're fantastically confident, and I admire that in you. Did you get bullied much growing up because of your disability?
Well, I've had many of that experience before, but that's it, really. I moved on from that.
What would they have done? I want to find out. I want to find out what people do so that we can actually, make sure that people don't do it again to others. What kind of things
It's like
would you?
making fun of people's disabilities.
People would have done that to you in the street or where?
Let's just say in schools,
Right.
mainly.
And none of us, of course, like being bullied. What did it do to you?
It made me feel isolated.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. But mainly I've moved on from that, and
And how did you fight back? What did you say to yourself?
I didn't really fight back at the time because I bottle things up.
Okay.
Tend to. But
So it hurt?
It hurt. But I always say to myself inside my head, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
You were in the Special Olympics?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. What did you do?
I do gymnastics for rhythmic.
I do the same myself. quite flexible. Handstands, natural athlete.
But it's mainly not that physical. I do rhythmic, mainly.
What was it seriously like? What was it? Was that you there?
It was amazing. I was in Greece in that video, and it was the World Games in Athens. So
look at that.
And my uncle Charlie was the one who'd videoed it. He came over with his wife Janet.
And how much practice needs to go into doing that?
It needs to put in so much practice. I practice once every Wednesday evenings doing that. At Salto Gymnastics Club in Belfast.
Did you feel free out there? Did you feel like that's what you do?
Yeah.
Because sometimes in life, no matter who we are, when you're doing something that you love, well, for me, right, I love being here and you just feel a freedom.
Mhm.
Did you feel it out there?
Yeah. Like I was able to spread out around the floor and do my routines just perfectly.
Now, I hear you're in love.
Yes.
You don't want to name him, right? Let's not
name
get into the too nitty gritty stuff about how much in love you are. But you're gonna move out. You're gonna live an independent life,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Any plans of when?
Hopefully, I haven't a clue how long it's going to take because I'm on the housing executive list. So I've been on it for quite a while.
Hopefully soon, though.
So hopefully soon.
Where's Mum? Mum's here today.
Mum's in the
How do you feel about her moving out, Mum?
As soon as possible. No, we'll miss her, but that's the ultimate goal, is to get her out there and be independent.
You know, I remember doing an interview in the radio with someone who had Down syndrome, and to my utter shame, I remember sitting in the radio studio, and it's the reason I wanted to do an interview with you tonight, Barbara. And I remember turning first of all to the relative. I remember turning first of all to it was this young lady's mum, and I walked away with a deep kind of sense of guilt about myself in that, why did I do this? Because this young lady started talking so articulately as you have tonight. And I do think that you will remind us all just to challenge our prejudices. Like, Mum, do you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why Barbara and all people like her shouldn't be out there living independently. It should be an available option for them. Absolutely, yeah.
Where's Catherine tonight? Catherine's in the audience tonight. Hello, Catherine.
Hello.
Now, you're the mum of a Down syndrome child, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay, what advice, Barbara, would you give?
Always look at the person for who he is and not for the disability that he has. Never judge never judge a cover by its book. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming in here tonight. All right? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right? Right, shall we move on to our next debate? Gay marriage, hugely divisive issue throughout the UK, but this week it's been backed by MPs in the House of Commons. The Prime Minister is adamant it is worth fighting for.
There will be
You know, young boys in schools today who are gay, who are worried about being bullied, who are worried about what society thinks of them, who can see that the highest parliament in the land has said that their love is worth the same as anyone else's love.
But here in Northern Ireland, the biggest political party, the DUP, says it won't happen under their watch. If Scotland go ahead with it too, we could be the only region in the UK where gay people can't get married. And if a gay person does get married in, say, England, and they then come to live here in Northern Ireland, their same-sex marriage would not be recognised here. Let's find out what you think about this tonight. The numbers will come up on your screen. Jim Allister, what's wrong with gay people in love getting married?
Well, marriage is properly an institution for heterosexual marriage.
Not anymore.
It is an institution devised to provide a secure, loving framework for the procreation and the raising of children. And the suggestion that because a same-sex couple say they love themselves, love each other, that they should be able, maybe themselves as well, that they should be able to marry is a perversion of marriage. There's no parity between heterosexual marriage and same-sex marriage.
And just to clear this up, do you think
it may well be a parity on marriage, but it's certainly there's no parity.
I think your thinking is a perversion. I have to say.
There's certainly, but you see, this is the aggressive gay agenda that cannot even tolerate an alternative
This is
view.
Brian Kennedy, by the way.
Let's take the premise.
Can I stop you there? Can I just stop you there?
Let's take the premise.
Hold on. Let's let him finish and then you
just
said.
said.
1 second, Brian. 1 second.
Go on.
Let's take the premise that you began with. If two people love each other, why can't they marry? Let's follow the logic of that through. Let's say a man says, well, in fact, I love two women. Are we going to go for polygamy?
This is the kind of
Are we going to go for polygamy?
Okay.
All
right. Okay. 1 second,
then where does it take you?
1 second. With Patrick Strudwick, Peter Lyons, Brian Kennedy. Patrick first. Go ahead.
This is ridiculous, hate-filled, fearsome
hate-filled about it.
It's
logical.
There's a vital principle at stake here. The principle is equality. Everyone in Northern Ireland, male, female, gay, straight, should be entitled to equal rights under the law. It's
There is no equality between heterosexual marriage and same-sex marriage.
You are
Indeed, the European Convention.
Gay people with your words.
No, I'm not. There is no.
You are denigrating me. You are denigrating Brian. You are denigrating everyone here who is not heterosexual.
If it was an equality issue,
let them finish, and then you
your
come back.
words harm everyone. I'll give you an example. Sunday, last weekend, the day before the third reading of the debate in Parliament in London, a gay couple was brutally attacked in a park in South London. And one of those people, Christopher Bryant, warned MPs, public figures like you, about their homophobic rhetoric, and warned that your words
there is nothing
contribute
homophobic
to the
what I've
violence
said.
against gay people.
Whatsoever. You say it is a matter of equality. If it were, then the European Convention on Human Rights would provide for what you call gay marriage. If it were, then the European Court of Human Rights would have said that it is wrong to deny gay marriage. The European Court has given many zany rulings. It has never yet said that. There is no issue of equality. It is a matter for the legislature in each member state, and in this case in Northern Ireland, to make up its mind. But what you want to do is enforce against the will of the electorate, against the will of those they elected, who are elected to make these decisions. And this is a devolved issue in Northern Ireland, whether you like it or not.
And most
you are
people are
wanting
for
to enforce
equality.
a view
In Northern Ireland,
which the
most people
legislature
are for
doesn't want to
Equality
say.
is a red herring.
Peter Lyons.
Yeah, equality is a red herring.
How?
So equality has been covered
Let's
under
let him
civil
tell us.
partnerships. Yeah. Equality, so civil partnerships deal with the equality argument. This is not about equality. This is about a small minority trying to force their views on a majority. We need to remember this is 1% of the population. The Office of National Statistics has done the surveys. People disagree when I say that in the room, and I say, well, there were 8,500 marriages in Northern Ireland, there were 89 civil partnerships. That equates again to 1%. So equality is a red herring.
It's not the same thing.
1%.
It's
so
not equality.
Equality is a red herring.
No, civil partnership and marriage are not the same thing. What are you talking about? So there's over 160 anomalies. Most worryingly, what happens with the children of these people?
So, Brian,
and I'm not going to allow either of you to demonise what's going on here.
Nobody's trying to demonise.
Well, I think you were having a good go at it there, Jim.
But here, so the legislation has gone through, the gay marriage bill that's in Parliament. That does not, Peter Thatcher came out at the weekend and said, that does not equate same-sex marriage with heterosexual marriage. There are differences around consummation and adultery. So actually in a gay marriage, a man cannot...
You were suggesting that separate...
If I could finish the point, Patrick.
Let them finish.
So Peter Thatcher himself said, you know, two gay men in a relationship can only... The only way they can commit adultery... Yes, the gay rights company. The only way they can commit adultery, a man in a gay relationship can commit adultery, is with a woman. And so you've got two choices.
Why would you focus on that?
Because it's not the same. So equality is 2 points.
Your argument is
civil partnerships give the principle of equality.
Your argument.
So you either say you're all about the principle of equality, civil partnerships give that, or you want exactly the same, and gay marriage doesn't do that.
Let's give Brian a bit of space. Brian.
I think that there's a very important issue here, which is in terms of, in Ireland right now, in the whole world right now, people are watching young people trying to decide on their identity, right? And the things that are happening, whether it was in the 80s, Jim, when you did that Ulster sodomy nonsense at the City Hall.
You wanted to criminalise.
Hold on.
So the difficulty is that suicide, very seriously, ladies and gentlemen.
Who's demonising now?
Suiciding young people.
You wanted to imprison me.
You can keep talking if you want. Suiciding young people is on the rise. This is a very serious issue, and the things that you are saying are making young people feel bad about themselves, and they do not need
genuine bullying when you say because somebody disagrees with you that suddenly we're giving rise to suicide. That's not the case, Brian.
That's
You're
not what
undermining
I'm saying.
genuine bullying.
Let's hear
what he's saying. Let's hear what he's saying.
I'm talking about things that lead to homophobia, which is the way that you're thinking. You're saying we can't be married.
No. You see, as soon as anybody disagrees with you, then you start saying, well, I'm leading into homophobic thinking, and that's not acceptable.
Jim, back in the 80s, you were part of a DUP delegation, right? That pressed the direct rule minister to keep gay male sex illegal. Are you still of that position? Do you still think it should be illegal?
I accept what the law says.
No, but what is your position?
I accept that under the European Convention, that's what the law requires.
What would you prefer? Where do you stand?
I'm not here, Mr. Nolan, for you to put words into my mouth.
Well,
you might be very good at doing that with other people. You'll not be doing it with me.
Hold on.
I know you have an obsession with this subject. I know this show has an obsession with gay marriage, but you'll not be putting words in my mouth.
That's a good try.
I accept what the law is.
That's a really good try, but let me just repeat the question again. So much am I not trying to put words in your mouth, my friend. I am asking you a question so that you can answer it, and don't go off on all these tangents about me having an agenda. So here's the question. No words in your mouth. Would you prefer gay sex was still illegal as you chose to have that position in the 80s? Have you changed your position or not?
I believe gay sex is wrong.
Yes.
I believe it's a lifestyle which is inappropriate.
Let him finish.
I think it's a lifestyle that's inappropriate.
You think it should be illegal?
But I have to accept that the law says it is not illegal.
Of course you do.
I'm a legislator. Have I tried to change the law? So, I accept the law as it exists, but what I also accept that is puts upon legislators the right to legislate according to the views of their electorate. Okay. And the electorate in Northern Ireland have spoken through the Assembly that they do not want same-sex marriage. These people want to enforce it on the electorate.
You want to enforce your view.
Let's go for the audience.
People that do want
There's a young man with your hand up. Hello, go ahead.
I would like to put a question to Jim, because I definitely feel this is a generation issue. And Jim, how do you feel that you're wrong here, you're wrong against equality, and that eventually the young people they're solid in this issue. It's going to happen. Inevitability, gay marriage will happen. And how do you feel that it's?
Well, you don't know. We don't have the statistics to see the breakdown, do we? You don't know what young people are thinking.
I think young people are clear on this. I think young people definitely feel they want to put marriage forward. It's going to happen. We might be 15 years behind England, but it's eventually going to happen. And
thank God for young people. That's all I'll say.
It's going to happen.
You might be young, but you don't speak on behalf of all young people, for example, do you? There's a guy here in the T-shirt. Yes, go ahead.
We need to understand.
Well, you're kind of middle-aged, aren't you? So what do you think?
Very much. Equality means treating similar things the same.
Just wait till we get a microphone to you. It's over here. It's just here. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Equality means treating similar things the same. Marriage already does that. Treats all people equally, regardless of age, sex, discrimination. Let me finish, Stephen. This is very important.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental difference between a heterosexual and homosexual relationship. A homosexual relationship is not compatible to procreate for children. It is not the best environment to bring up a child where they have a mother and father. And secondly, to redefine marriage is to change the truth. When you change the truth, you open the floodgates for everything.
There's two issues here.
Let's let Patrick respond to you. Go ahead, Patrick.
There's two issues here. I think it's very important. You know, we've talked about the difference between marriage and civil partnership, and there's this notion that somehow we should accept this second-rate position. Well, let me finish. The separate but equal argument was the doctrine that underpinned racial segregation in America. Do you understand what we're talking about here?
Something different. Equality is enshrined by civil partnership. Is it the principle, or do you want exactly the same? Do you agree the gay marriage bill that's going through does not give exactly the same equality?
You would accept that Northern Ireland has a right under devolution to say no to this?
Yes, but it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Because so we're not allowed to say no?
Of course you are.
There are lots of
legal ramifications to this.
There are 170 countries in the world that don't have gay marriage. There are 12 that do. We're not the outside. We're aligned with Africa, South America.
I'll tell you what your problem is, Jim. You're too far behind the times. You and the rest of the unionist parties, get your head out of the sand. I'll tell you another thing, Jim. You and the rest of the unionist parties, what about gay march and designated days? Would you agree with that, would you? You seem to do everything else. Move on, Jim.
That's the level of the contribution. You see, here we have another illustration that as ever, those who present themselves as liberal turn out to be the most
illiberal. Well, I'd rather be proud and gay than be Hitler man accused.
Comes to accommodating. Hold on. Stop. Tell me, one sec. There's no point. Listen, there's no point shouting because we can't hear you because the microphone's nowhere near you. Tell me why you're so angry.
I'm angry because the likes of him sitting up there getting TV or spreading hatred. I'll tell you one thing, Jim.
Hold on, man. He's entitled to his opinion without being accused of spreading anything. He's entitled to his opinion, and many people would back him. He's also, by the way, an elected politician and has a mandate.
Hold on. There is no hatred. There is no hatred in saying marriage is heterosexual. There is no hatred in saying that there should not be same-sex marriage. No hatred whatsoever in that.
Hold on.
Gay pride, 6th of July. See you there, Jim.
Can we talk about this argument about redefinition, which you brought up earlier? This is often trotted out. Oh, you're trying to redefine marriage. Marriage has been redefined dozens of times. Marriage was redefined when we decided that it wasn't okay for men to be able to legally rape their wives in a marriage. Marriage was redefined by Henry VIII when he decided that marriage was not forever, but when you want to sleep with Anne Boleyn.
Okay.
Marriage has been redefined several times.
Okay. There's a lady here in the glasses. Go ahead. Yes, in the glasses. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Hi. Your guy there was talking about gay people having kids, and about it's not a good environment to bring up kids. There's many of heterosexual families that have kids that shouldn't have them. So what makes it wrong for a gay person?
And there's a lady beside you there. Yes, with the purple top. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. With your purple top. Go ahead. Yes.
Jim, what gives you the right to tell me that I shouldn't be allowed to marry the woman that I love if you can marry the woman that you love?
And by your logic, if my neighbour should say he loves 2, 3 women, then you're saying he should be able to marry them all. Sorry, that is where you're going to end up. Once you depart from the tried and tested truth of marriage as the union of one man and one woman, and going to the slippery slope that you want to take us down, then polygamy is next, whether you like it or not. And why is polygamy wrong? Because it's contrary to the moral feelings of the community, and morals do affect
Jim, it used to be that black people couldn't marry white people. Then Protestants couldn't. It's exactly the same. Protestants couldn't marry Catholics. That was a huge shock, and everybody couldn't do that. It's the same thing, actually. And here we are, And
in Brazil, Stephen, is one of the countries that has legalised gay marriage, and that a judge recently ruled to allow 3 people into marriage. That's the inevitable consequence. So Jim's not scaremongering. That's just what's happened in other countries. That's what's happened in other countries around the world. The other thing that's not in the legislation, if we're talking about the bill that went through, is protection for churches. And Aidan O'Neill QC, one of the leading QCs in London, has made it clear churches are not protected in legislation.
Churches need protecting from your views.
Okay.
What are you so afraid of? Listen, Peter, if I marry my fella next week,
I'll tell you what, you have to do it in the next 10 seconds because we're out of time.
Do we agree that
Ladies and gentlemen, give them all a round of applause. Night, night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.